Ooh. Hello, this is Mike Vizian. Thank you for joining the live stream. I'm going to be working on some stuff, and I'm going to look at someone's animation that they sent on the Discord, which you can join via the link. And basically, people can share their work, and just like a little community of animators, get feedback on stuff, just share work in progress, etc., etc. And I've been very busy this month, luckily, because I had a bit of a dry spell the past few months. I'm just like kind of doing small little animations here and there, but no like really big self-sustaining type of project. But luckily, now I have too much to chew on, which I'd much rather be too busy than not busy at all. But anyways, I have a little free time to look at some stuff. So yeah, this one is super cool. When I saw this, I was like, I don't really know if I have that much to say in terms of a critique. I have a couple of things though, the more I've looked at it, but it's kind of subjective personal taste. Like, I don't see anything that sticks out as obviously not working with this loop. But yeah, like some of the things that like right away, that work is the spacing and the timing of everything. Then you have this like one in between here that's really fast. It covers a long distance, so it gives it that really powerful thrust. And then it slows in where you have several frames of this foot back here that bunch together, and so it has this hang time where we're able to visually process what's happening. Now, if I was animating this, and it depends on the character design, but I would probably have done some more type of a smear frame in between here, but I don't think you need to do that, because I think this works perfectly fine just as it is. And it also shows that this character isn't all goopy and super squashy and stretchy, because this character is a solid can. So it makes sense that it wouldn't be like too flexible. But that being said, there's also some arcing in the spine of the character. So like here, you can see it's not a perfectly straight line either. So even on characters that are more made up of straights and angular edges, you can still have some curving motion in there. Another thing is how this denotes speed is the angle that the character's weight is. So the balance of the character, it's tilted like this. Now, if you're just walking straight, your spine is more like this. It's more balanced. Whereas if you start jogging, you're kind of leaning forward a little bit. So imagine this is your spine. And then if you're sprinting, you're almost falling over where your spine is like this, and your legs are coming out far to catch the weight of your body. So that's really good here with the character really leaning into the thrust, like the skateboard is going way behind him. So it has a really powerful feeling. I think one thing that I would maybe change is right here where the foot contacts the ground. It looks like it's almost like tangenting on the wheel. Like maybe I would bring the foot down just a little bit, just barely a little bit down to here, so that it's feels like it's going below the wheel just a little bit, as opposed to right now it almost feels like it's going exactly on the wheel. And then maybe the smoke is a nice effect, but it's a little bit busy where the smoke is kind of getting caught and tangenting on this back wheel here. So I would maybe think about how to space out the smoke a little differently to where it reads a little bit more clearly. Like, think about the silhouette of this whole shape the smoke is kind of convoluting this silhouette down here. So like, you know, you could potentially, where the foot hits here, you could potentially maybe make the smoke come out more around here. That's just kind of up to taste, but that's maybe what I would do, is just have the smoke maybe away from the skateboard a little bit. But yeah, it's looking super good. And of course there's little things like going frame by frame here, little kind of things with the hands. You could probably polish up some of these hand drawings, like this one could be polished up a little bit. But like the style I know is like kind of more punk rock cool, so it doesn't need to be like super clean or anything. But yeah, like overall I think it's a really solid piece, and there's not really that much like I would change about it. It feels really good just looking at it right away. Maybe the bee. I mean, the bee is like a secondary character, and I don't really know how much you would do about this, but right now it kind of feels like the bee is like a single PNG of this whole body face mask. So like I mean, you know, of course insects and bees are like little compact units, but I'd maybe do something like you could have the legs kind of being pulled along by the body, like give a little bit of follow through animation on the legs so that it doesn't feel like it's just like a PNG type of thing. It's like, and maybe even potentially separate its thorax from the head, have those move a little bit differently, like maybe the head comes up a little bit delayed from the thorax as it's being pulled up by the wings. That's just like a really minor thing, and like that's like kind of all I can think about, because I think this is a really solid piece. So good job. And then let's see. Yeah, so that's about all I have to say about all that. And so now I've been working on this background loop inspired by Willy Wonka, because I'm working for a client right now whose their stage name is Wonky Willa, and they basically are inspired a lot by Willy Wonka type visuals, but like tripped up. So I watched the movie. I've never actually seen it before, the old one. And yeah, so just gonna be recording the process of trying to get this loop, get these main aspects of this loop to work seamlessly. And so I have this 1-point perspective grid on to help me keep track of everything. So I'm going to be tracking all the elements along this grid, and this is what I have so far. So as you can see, it's like the chocolate river, and what I actually did first was get the river animated into a seamless loop. And the reason for this, of course, is, well, it'd be way too hard to animate each image as a full thing, one frame after another. So getting one aspect animated first, this will allow me to track all the elements along the points of the river. So you can see, for example, like this little hill back here. Let me zoom in so we can see it better. So this little point of the hill right here, I'm basically tracking it along the edge of this part of the river, and this is just helping me like do one little aspect of a time, and it's just like sculpting. It's almost like making a sculpture. And then once I get to the end, I'll copy and paste the beginning frame to the end, and yeah, just keep building up one element after another. There's a little trial and error with this type of method, but this is a way you can get like background tunnel type loops. So gotta turn my light box on, And right now I'm keeping it to show the previous 3 frames. So basically I'm just doing the biggest parts first, like these hills, and then I'm going over on another pass and I'll start doing the smaller elements that branch off of the hills, like these little whatchamacallit, candy cane trees. And I'm not gonna add any in-betweens. I thought about like these would just be the keyframes and then I'd go over again and do in-betweens, but I think it actually works with a more limited amount of frames. Also, yeah, just especially since it's kind of a busy design, it'd get a little bit too labor intensive. So it's one thing about doing animation is being realistic about what's 100% necessary in terms of the work, because every little new element you add has to be animated. It might not seem like a lot, but even adding like a couple buttons to someone's shirt as a single drawing, no big deal. But once you start have to animating that character, having the character turn around, and you have bunches of frames that bundle together for slow in and slow out, all those little, it's like compounding interest where it just keeps building up and it keeps becoming bigger and bigger. So that's a challenge you always have to consider with animating, is it's not just about the actual animating of drawings, it's about the design of the drawings with the intention that they will be animated several frames. So you need to be okay with living with certain compromises, and also like more busy and more detailed isn't always better anyways. In fact, that's usually is not better at all. But yeah, like sometimes for kind of more psychedelic trippy stuff, a certain amount of busyness and random stuff going on is part of the appeal. So let's just see. So I'm just like kind of basically doing this straight ahead, but like building it off of one aspect at a time straight ahead. And then the challenge, of course, is getting it to loop seamlessly at the end. So it's mostly straight ahead. There's a little bit of pose to pose, like when I was getting the river in at the beginning. I basically drew like this position and then this position where it inverts on the opposite direction. So from here to here, those were like the 2 key frames. And then I just did the halving method of doing an in-between halfway between these 2 points, and then dividing those halfway points in between each other until I've come up with enough of frames where it kind of just creates this flowing feeling. And of course there's the wave principle at play here, which I've made a couple of tutorials on the wave principle on the channel. And yeah, the wave principle keeps coming up in like everything I do. What's up, Samuel Perker? Do you prefer lightbox or flipping? Yeah, it's you definitely flipping when I'm just getting like key poses in and stuff. But for what I'm doing right now, where I'm going straight ahead, I keep the lightbox on for about the previous 3 frames so that I can judge the distance here of these previous points to make sure that things are moving out and easing out in a consistent fashion like this. If I was just flipping, then the spacing could get more like this, where it's just kind of more random and all over the place. So it entirely depends on the context. It's not really about preferring one over the other. It's more about when does it make sense to do more flipping versus lightbox. But even here where I have the lightbox on, I'm still flipping back and forth between frames. But like for characters where there's more details, having the lightbox on can be a little tricky, because then it's hard to judge the specific details of the current frame you're on. So just have to use discernment of when it makes sense, and you know, not be afraid to try one or the other. Yeah. And I'm animating in TV Paint, but any frame-by-frame software will do. Little buckaroo. Thing that's a little tricky about this part is trying to keep the volumes kind of consistent to make sure this is growing too, so I have to make sure these lines on the right side are going a little bit spaced out further than the lines over here on the left that are further away from the camera. Whoosh. I'm seeing here this top part's getting a little bit too straight. It needs to be more arcing. I need to go over this and build out this arc a little bit before I get lost in the sauce. Yeah, I never saw the Willy Wonka. I knew about a lot of the certain aspects of it, like the chocolate river and the character that turns into a blueberry, and of course the Oompa Loompas. But now I can understand more and appreciate like the cultural heritage of it more, understand the references better. And it was just a pretty good movie. Felt like two separate movies though, where Charlie in the real world, that felt like its own film, and then when he goes into the factory place, that almost felt like an entirely different movie. But I guess it's supposed to be that way because it's sort of like the Alice in Wonderland effect where he goes to a different world. I thought Willy Wonka himself was pretty weird, pretty creepy. Almost thought he was kind of like a more antagonistic character, almost, because he didn't really go out of his way to protect the children from all the terrible things that could happen to them. He kind of just watched, and he just seemed like kind of like a sociopath until the end of the movie, when it's revealed that it was all a test to see what kid was gonna be a good Boy Scout to inherit his kingdom. But I like weird zany characters like that. It adds texture to the film. Alright, need to zoom out, see a bigger picture of this. Am I good at storyboarding? I don't know. I guess so. I mean, I storyboard for my own stuff. I haven't really storyboarded for other people, so I would probably have to adjust and make it make sense to someone else. But I think my storyboards are fairly decent, at least workable. I often use them as layout drawings too. I'm okay if certain things of this are kind of wonky, because it is supposed to be trippy. So I'm okay with things kind of changing form around a bit, but I'm definitely gonna have to do some work on the arc here. I don't want to get too hung up on that right now. Come over and add this second little branch coming out. So I know I'm tracking the base here with this diagonal line, the base of this smaller branch, so I'll keep that in mind as I'm going up. No, I don't use vector lines because I'm working in TV Paint, which only has raster capabilities, unfortunately. But when I've animated in Toon Boom, Blender, or Adobe Animate, then yes, I'll clean up in vector lines. But it's all still hand drawn. Course. But yeah, the nice thing about vector is, of course, resizing things without losing quality. So if I want to resize stuff, I try to do it in the rough animation stage where it doesn't really matter if things get pixelated. But once we go into cleanup, we kind of have to make sure that the roughs are pretty much set in stone in terms of the actual animation aspect. Like minor corrections, of course, can be made in the cleanup stage. But after you clean stuff up, you know, it's not really practical to resize things, unfortunately. And the soundtrack is Sonic Sega Genesis music compilation. It's guaranteed good vibes. I love Sonic music. I don't really play the games that much anymore, but the music is a constant staple of my routine. Just like Radiohead. Alright, so I can see it's kind of jumping up too quick down here. To keep this arc, and maintaining this arc's kind of giving me trouble. Okay, I think this is starting to feel better. Do you have basic tutorial for TV Paint? Yeah, I have a playlist on the channel of some TV Paint tutorials. You could probably just find it by going to the playlist section. But I need to make some new ones. They're pretty old. But yeah, I haven't, messed around with the newest program of TV Paint. It's kind of buggy on Mac from what I've heard. So I'm always anxious to upgrade, especially when I'm in the thick of a project. The last thing you want is to be on a tight deadline and then your program doesn't work because of some update situation. Well, some other news is so I guess I can definitely talk about it. So I can't talk about the stuff I'm working on right now for the effects of something, but because of stuff. But so last year we worked on a planetarium project, which I've never worked on before. Like those domes where it's like a big dome theater thing that you step inside, and it's 360 visuals all around you. Like everywhere you look, there's stuff on the ceiling, behind you, in front of you. So I worked on a 8K planetarium animation last year, and me and my animation partner Brittany Penn, we worked on it for between the end of December throughout like beginning of May, so like 5-ish months. And basically we built a bunch of these assets of like trippy underwater coral reef stuff mixed with planetary space stuff. So it's like this underwater, out of space, surreal environment. And then we animated this giant mirror that shows like a whole storyline happening. And basically this character is on a rowboat, and he is rowing away from the mirror, trying to run away from his past, and then eventually he confronts the mirror and is rowing towards it. So, you know, it's a little hard to explain, but basically there's this whole storyline of his past, future, and present that he's watching in the mirror in the planetarium in this surreal environment. But it tells a whole story of this metamorphosis. And I haven't really done that much narrative type of work. I think the most narrative thing I've ever worked on is the City of Venom cartoon with Eddie Brock and Dr. Octopus. It's on the channel Mashed, and it's just like a comedy 6-minute rubber hose style cartoon. So, but for the most part, the music videos and projects I've worked on have been way more just more like a mood piece, like more about the vibe as opposed to like a coherent storyline. So this project that I'm talking about was for the band The Polyphonic Spree, and their art director reached out to me asking if I'd be interested. So that's what I worked on last year, and then kind of forgot about it, but it just started touring live and stuff, and it showed at the South by Southwest Film Festival. And so I got a call saying that asking for my address because I won an award, and it was for best poster design at the South by Southwest Film Festival. And I was a little surprised because I didn't work on a poster. So I was like, well, and the last award I won was a soccer trophy in 4th grade. So I was like, well, yeah, I'll take the award, but I don't know what I did for a poster. But it was because aspects of the animation music video was composited in the winning poster. So that's why I haven't got the thing yet, but it's coming. But and also my animation partner Brittany Penn worked on the project with me, and she did all the space nebula and cleanup animation. She pretty much does all the cleanup animation on all these loops too. So I'm trying to, I know my roughs are sometimes a little tricky, but yeah, anyways, that was just a stream of consciousness babble that just happened. I don't know if I was done saying what I was saying or what happened, but this happens when I start drawing and talking at the same time. And then I start talking about talking and the strangeness of talking. I'm trying to not talk about that as much, and I also talk about how I'm trying not to talk about it as much. It's frustrating. I don't know how to be a human, but whatever. Alright, I think this is feeling a little better now. It feels like we're going into it. Give a little save. I've never used Krita, but I would like to give it a try. Maybe I'll make a video all about testing out different free software. Awesome, I'm glad the old tutorials helped you getting started in animation. It is always encouraging when someone says one of the tutorials helped them. I know there's like an infinite amount of tutorials online, but there's always like a different aspect that you can approach things to. And sometimes people click with a different method or a different style. And it's no harm to watch similar tutorials over and over. Repetition makes everything about mastery comes from repetition. And of course, there's no such thing as perfection. Perfection is the killer of creativity, because it's an impossible standard, and all it does is create paralysis, where you feel like you can't even start because it's not going to be good enough. Who cares about good enough? Just do stuff. Like, we're all failing biological machines, so no one is like superior. It's all about just learn and do things your best, and just keep making progress in your own way. And yeah, that's just my philosophy with it. And eventually quantity will lead to quality. You're putting in the deep work, putting in the deep focus. Eventually you're gonna start making things that are interesting. So getting by this corner here is where things get a little bit tricky, because I don't want things to hang on the corner, but I also don't want them to disappear too quickly. But as things get closer to the screen, of course, it should be moving a little bit faster than when it's further away. I think I could add one more line here, just to let that part read a little better as it comes off. Your tutorials are great because you capture fluid movement really well. Thank you. Yes, I think that's the part I kind of get the most naturally, is more fluid stuff. I definitely struggle more with character animation and conveying weight and stuff. That's why I generally like to animate trippy stuff that's underwater or in space. And animation in general is pretty niche. So having access to work from someone with your speciality specifically is wonderful. Nice. Yeah, thank you. I'm wondering how many tutorials I can make on the wave principle. I just got to keep repackaging it, titling it differently, applying it to different stuff. It's weird. I didn't feel like streaming today. I kind of never do. But once I start, I don't mind it. It's just a glitch with me, I guess, with like talking. And if I had my way, I would pretty much never talk, probably. But then social life would end completely, and that would not be good. I think people with my temperament need to watch out for isolation and becoming too detached from things, because that's when you kind of lose that buffer. Been reading a lot about like longevity studies and things like that. Not because I'm one of those weird guys that want to, live forever or like cheat death or anything like those tech billionaires. More so just because I want my brain to atrophy too fast. And but they're finding that like having a social network is a huge buffer against depression, which makes sense because like we're social creatures, and other illnesses like even like Alzheimer's and like pretty much everything. You can't be too isolated, but yeah, like I just really enjoy being alone. So, but different people have different thresholds, and people who are definitely more introverted shouldn't be around people constantly. It's extremely hard on your nervous system if you're someone who's more introverted and has to recharge. There's definitely a tipping point where just more socializing is definitely not better. But what they found is that even just having one significant relationship, just one friend, having a shoulder to cry on basically is a huge benefit. Like you get pretty much most of the benefits of social life just from having the difference between having one person and 0 people is night and day. Whereas the difference between having one person and like a dozen people, there is a difference there, but it's not night and day. And of course, quantity of relationships is different than quality. There's definitely a difference between having 5,000 Facebook friends that you never talk to, but having no like genuine connections. That's almost worse than having no friends. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not saying that online friendships don't count. What I'm saying is they have to be quality friendships, because online friends definitely matter too. And yeah, like I like often a step. Well, the tricky part is just making sure you're not getting catfished. But some of my best friendships have come from online. And also having an animal companion helps a lot, like a cat or a dog. I just watched these 2 documentaries on Netflix called Inside the Mind of a Cat, and then I watched Inside the Mind of a Dog. They're just such incredible creatures. I think as we learn more and more about the minds of all these animals, we're going to realize they're so much more intelligent and emotionally complex than we ever thought. Especially like cats, we've learned a lot more. The cat science is 15 years behind dog studies, and part of the reason is a lot of times they were kind of treating cats like dogs, but cats don't react to things the same way as dogs. And you can't really teach a cat through things like negative reinforcement. They just get confused and will associate you with bad vibes. So they're all about positive reinforcement, and they're a little bit more individualized in terms of what counts as positive reinforcement, whereas dogs are a little bit more generic in terms of how you can train a dog. It is more specific than how you can train a cat, whereas the cat is a lot more you really need to figure out the quirks of your specific cat. But I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say something. I don't know. Is that a joke? I don't know. Anyways, so I'm trying to be a good Boy Scout, not just randomly say stuff. But yeah, anyways. I don't know. Is this bad? I don't know. I don't think this is bad. I was gonna say, watching the cat documentary, it felt like I was learning how to interact with my girlfriend. Like how to interact with cats, because she's a lot like a cat. But that's not an insult, because I love cats and I love turtles. They're definitely my favorite animals, cats and turtles. Once I start adding more of these details here, it gets a little bit more tricky, because there's all these lines and after images that are from my lightbox, and it just gets a little bit messy. Okay. So the spacing here is getting a little bit wonky. To have this ease out a little bit better. We have many parrots in my city, and their language centers of the brain are amazing. We know they communicate, but I think the depth of communication is well beyond what we imagine. Wow. Yeah, birds are so interesting. It's that insult bird brain doesn't really apply anymore because I mean, it depends on the species too, but like, I think it's ravens and definitely crows can deceive, they can lie, and they can deceive other members of their species thinking that they're, I forget exactly how they do it, but like, I don't know, to get food, like they trick each other. And they have like whole social communities, and all the social animals basically like that have complex social groups have more complicated brains in terms of like what we think as being more complicated, like more variations of behavior and communication. But I don't know if I could live with parrots unless they well, I don't know. I don't know how noisy they would be. I mean, it would be pretty cute to hear them talking though. So maybe it wouldn't be so annoying, but like if you're trying to record music or something, it might be a little tricky. Do 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 do. Just taking one line at a time. These little swirly things are gonna be a little annoying. But I do think I need this aspect in the design. These little swirly suckers. But I think I'll animate the circles coming in first. I need to resize this to match up the perspective grid maybe. So that's easier to track. Actually, change the perspective grid a little bit. See here, ray count 30. Alright. Since this is in the back, it needs to have really close spacing for now. Whew. Animation is hard. What is this about crafty cows? Ooh. You're lucky to have 5 friends. I feel like it's harder to make friends when you become an adult too. Like, especially if you do freelancing or work from home because you're not around consistent people all the time. But yeah, like my friend group has definitely dwindled and shrunk to the point where I have like 1 friend left. Yeah. What is up? Whew. Over here. I'm just gonna shift over to this side for a little bit. Get this. Sometimes I get tired of doing one thing and just move over to the other one, another thing for a little bit, just to keep the momentum up. But for the most part, I like to focus on one thing at a time. But sometimes it can get a little depressing to just be stuck on one thing. So now I'll be tracking this hill in the foreground, and then I'll do the eyeball behind it. So basically all the things that are in front I do first. Oh, this hill's kind of growing. The bottom part's going up too fast. Okay, see how this looks so far. Not bad, not bad. I see what's happening. The river is coming down, but this part is going up. It's going the opposite way it should be going. This part needs to be coming down now. Especially with straight ahead stuff, is a lot of sometimes having to redraw entire sections, but luckily since I'm only just doing like one main line at a time, it's not too big of a deal. Sometimes you just have to feel things out first and then alter it. You can't always just know just based on looking at it. You have to feel the flow of frames working together like a sequence of musical notes. It's not about what any one individual drawing looks like. It's about how do all the drawings flow and work together as a single idea. It's looking better. Give it a little save. Alright. One of my favorite things to see in hand-drawn animation is movement through the background that's also hand-drawn. You don't see it a lot because of time and skill involved, but I love it. Yeah. Yep, I agree. And that makes it that much more exciting when you do see a little sequence where the entire background is hand animated. It feels like a little special treat, and it adds a lot to like the kind of 3D feeling of the world, since with 2D stuff usually the backgrounds are, I mean, they can still show three-dimensional depth of course, but like the backgrounds aren't moving, being animated like these really detailed painted backgrounds. So yeah, when they transition to the hand-drawn frame by frame, background style, it feels like it's like a really nice, powerful little moment, even if it's like something that doesn't really matter that much. It doesn't even have to be narratively important. It just adds visual interest. Even if the frame rate's low, sometimes I like it more when the frame rate's a little more choppy. It somehow makes it feel even more handmade, like you know this isn't a computer or like a CG type of thing. But yeah, that of course is one of the big benefits of the 3D stuff, is being able to seamlessly and easily move the camera in 3D space, take advantage of the Z-axis without having to redraw all the assets over and over. So you can get really dynamic cinematic type movements. I do think sometimes it's overdone. Like, just because you have that tool doesn't mean you should use it all the time. So it's nice when people show restraint too, when they have all the tools to do every fancy trick in the book, but they still choose to do something that's more restrained and contained, that's maybe more focused on just the composition of the shot, and versus like just showing a bunch of flashy stuff. I think sometimes I notice it a lot more too in like more modern type of animated fight scenes where the camera is just jerking and shaking, and explosions and bloom effects and just all this chaos. That can be kind of fatiguing, in my opinion. I kind of prefer the more old school, like 90s style anime fights where the camera is even a little bit more static, but it's more about the characters and like the layout drawings of each shot. And that's not to poo-poo on modern stuff or like using camera shake or anything. I just think there could definitely be a little bit more of a balance, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. I don't know anything. I'm just saying stuff. Doobie doo. Oh, yep. So I'm on like 3 full-time projects right now. It's a little bit crazy. So, well, one of them definitely has more of a tight deadline. The other 2 are a little more loosey-goosey. So I'm just like spending my entire weekends working on this stuff, the kind of VJ loop type things for these commissions. But I'm still wanting to show them progress since I've been so busy with the other stuff. I feel a little bad that I haven't been able to show as much progress as I would have liked to. So I'm really just gonna work crazy this weekend and on the off hours throughout the week trying to make progress on these. Normally I'd try to pencil people in or space things out better, but kind of just slightly traumatized from this dry spell the past like 6 months or so in terms of having a big project to work on. I've had little projects to sustain myself, and of course my shop and Patreon, but it was getting to the point where I also had like a ton of bills and stuff, and it was just getting a little scary. I'll just say that. So I'm very, very grateful to be extremely busy right now, even though it is a little stressful. Okay, there's still some wonky stuff happening here. Okay, let's see how this feels. Okay, it's kind of snapping too fast here. Just need to ease into some of these positions a little bit better. think I can live with this. Have this hill come up faster over here. Okay, that feels better. Okay, I'll get this line in. See how this looks. Okay, I need to have this part come out a little faster. Over here. And after I get all these in-betweens in, I might even go over another pass and like tweak things and polish things up a little bit to make it more presentable for cleanup. I don't know, I usually don't do that actually, but kind of like a semi tie down pass. All right, see how this feels. Not bad. Oh, some wonky frames here. Hold on. Oh my god. I think I messed this up. Might polish that up later. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. And then the eyeball coming up. Basically gonna track it off a couple of these grids. Probably just use a circle tool once I actually do the cleanup. Maybe that's what I should be doing. Hang on a second. See here. Oh, interesting. I might just do the eyeball in cleanup. Might be easier, and then track stuff around that. Create a new layer for the eyeball. Clean. All right, I think I solved the riddle here. Let's see here. Okay, these are my roughs. Okay, I think I have a solution here. So instead of trying to freehand this eyeball on roughs, I'm just gonna create a new layer specifically for the eyeball and yeah, I'll just do this for the eyeball and just basically go straight ahead and clean up. Probably have to tweak stuff a little bit, but this will actually be way easier. Now I'll turn my lightbox on. Then I can build other animation around this eyeball. And this is way faster to use this circle tool than trying to draw this. And it's still a little tricky. Okay, let's think here. Okay, I think I have a better idea how to do this. Okay, gotta start there. This is kind of tedious in its own way, but definitely less tedious than doing it another way. So I'm basically tracking this by starting on this perspective grid, then pulling out, and then going like this and using the light box to judge the distance. And basically this lower half of the eyeball is going to be disappeared. So, excuse me. So from here to here, everything down here will be invisible because it's going to be covered up by these hills. So I'm not too concerned about stuff that's happening down on the bottom. Just need to make sure the part on top is tracking well. And I think it is so far. So this is the solution to my dilemma. It's always hard to judge how long things will take, especially when a client is asking for an estimate. On the one hand, I'm like, for a loop like this, like I'd say, you know, it'll definitely take longer than a day, but it'll be shorter than a month. So what I generally say is like 1 to 2 weeks as an estimate, but that's kind of considering I don't have a billion other things going on. So then like sometimes it does take a month, not because the animation loop itself took a month, but because I was working on it on top of a trillion other things. So I just want to be mindful of things like that. But yeah, like usually just say things are going to take 3 times longer than you originally think it's going to take, just to be safe. And I find that is usually how long it ends up taking anyways. Okay, that feels good. Oh yes, this is feeling awesome. Oh my gosh, this is so much better than having to freehand this circle. Now it's gonna start getting really big. Gotta make sure that things don't get hung up on themselves. Make sure the spacing is correct. Animation. I never thought I'd be doing animation as a living. It kind of fell into it, honestly, through having no social life when all my friends went to college and I was living as a hermit in my parents' basement. And I just started making flip books one day when I was 19, and it literally became an addiction where I spent just like ever since then I've been animating every day, several hours a day, almost every weekend. I'm not, so like I have to be careful about the, the whole hustle culture type thing, and not wanting to glorify overworking, because you do need to pace yourself. You need to know when to rest. So I'm not trying to say like you should never take a day off or don't take holidays off or anything like that. That's all very important. What I am saying is it's just a very passionate thing where I just want to create stuff all the time. And I feel more sad when I'm not working versus when I am making something. And like, yeah, like it definitely is work in a way, but it also has a meditative quality to it. You're just doing one frame after another. And I like repetitive things like that, where it's about focusing on one task and that's it. You just like hyper focused on one thing. Because then if I'm just worried about animating, I don't worry about all my other problems. So it's like a perfect cure to anxiety, is just to not think about your anxiety and just work all the time. Alright, now the eyeball is going to be getting really big. Guess I could start coming out from over here. Oh, hold on. Okay. Ooh boy. I think I might have, once I get to the little iris part over here, I might have it kind of looking around. I'm not sure yet how I would do that. Or maybe it should just stay in one spot. Oh, no, actually, maybe it'll be kind of shifting, starting to head towards us. I don't know. I might actually have to rough that part out more. Okay, I'm actually going to make this a little smaller now. You can see stuff better. Animation. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, here's where it's going to be going a lot faster. Oh, I love everything. I'm grateful to be here. I always hear my neighbors ordering DoorDash. I don't think they go grocery shopping. I literally hear DoorDash delivering food 3 times a day for every meal. I hope they can't hear me. Can they hear me? I don't know. Oh, maybe they can. I don't know. Oh, maybe I'll stop talking now. I can hear them, but they're really loud. I don't think I'm that loud. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna need this eyeball to disappear faster because I'm getting close to the end of this loop here. I have 7 frames left to work with. So, actually I'm gonna, crap, hold on. Okay, I just need the spacing to go faster now. How's this gonna work? Okay, I'm actually gonna make little notes here where the end of the eyeball can be on the spacing. Make sure this is gonna work. There, and the spacing is getting progressively further apart. Let's see how this looks so far. This dot would be tracking the outer edge of the eyeball. Might be going just a tad fast. I could probably slow it down just a tiny bit over here, just so I have another frame to work with. Okay. Okay. See how this looks. Okay, I think this can work. Alright, let's give this a try. Oh, give it a little save. Computer slows down when I get the eyeball bigger. Okay. Okay, I think this can work. Okay. Now if I had vector lines, I could just make one eyeball and then size it up every frame and keep the lines the same width. But since I'm doing this with raster, I can't do that. I'll show you what I mean. So if I say I made an eyeball right here, and this was the eyeball, and then I wanted to change the size, if I make it smaller, you can see that the width of the line gets really tiny, and that's not practical. And on the other hand, if I grab the same frame and I start to make the thing bigger, well, look how huge the line art's now getting. The bigger it gets, the line art scales with it. Not only that, it also gets all JPEG-y. More I go in, so now you can see like these individual ugly pixels. But that would make it easier to scale up this eyeball if I had vector lines, and I could just use like a keyframe camera tool, just have one drawing and then just automate it to where it gets bigger and goes off screen. But alas, I have to do this frame by frame. But on the other hand, doing it frame by frame gives it a more hand-drawn feeling, where you can see these individual nuances and slight imperfections in the spacing and the drawing of the line that you wouldn't get with vector. So it feels less computer made and more handmade. So I do like that aspect of doing things completely frame by frame. It's just a little bit annoying for certain things. Especially when it starts getting big like this, it's hard to track it. Okay. Feeling good. Boy, yeah, also, how have a fire course on the shop. The link's in the description. Well, yeah, it's in the description and also the top of this chat feed, and it'll be in the pinned comment on the replay. But yeah, like this month, the fire course is half off on the shop. Also, I have a Discord link where you can post your stuff. There's like a little community of animators. And yep, you can join the Discord if you want. And what else? Oh, I have a Patreon. Of course, everyone has a Patreon. I have a YouTube channel. I don't know. You know all the stuff you're supposed to say on the internet. Alright, let's see how this feels. Okay, I think that's working. That's working. Yes. Dig it. Give it a save. Then I'm gonna work on the mountains on front of the eyeball, and then erase the back portion of the eyeball that I don't need. Now I'm going back into the roughs. I'm gonna turn the opacity of the eyeball down so it doesn't distract me. All right, feeling good about this. Yeah, I have another neighbor. So the loud neighbors that order the Uber Eats, they are always like arguing with each other. They're a couple, but they talk to each other like they're in 3rd grade. It's kind of funny, but I don't know, also like kind of loud. And then I have another neighbor that lives next to me, like attached to my unit, and she's like an opera singer and plays piano. So sometimes I hear her as well. But I guess I can't complain because I play guitar, so they can probably hear me too. But I try to be mindful about the hours I play music. I mean, yeah, never mind. Oh, I become mindful once I realize what the hours are that I'm currently playing music. And then I go, oh, probably shouldn't play at this hour. Okay, messing up. Yeah, I'm very sensitive to sound in my environment. So I'm hearing them right now. They're doing stuff. But I like having my own environment and just stuff like that, and being able to listen to my music. So that's why I'm really grateful to be able to freelance, even though there's certain aspects of this lifestyle that is insanely stressful, like trying to find work all the time. Whereas a conventional job, you show up and you have a boss that has stuff for you to do. Whereas if you're freelancing, you're kind of your own marketing department in addition to doing all the work. And that, that's a lot of pressure. So, but I'd prefer that over having to show up to a physical place and having, that kind of environment. And also, like, it's nice to be able to listen to the music you want to listen to and just have a little bit more freedom over your physical environment that you're working in. On the other hand, something hard about that, of course, is if you work in the same place you eat and sleep, then it's harder to separate your office and your work hours from your personal life hours. And that is a struggle, trying to find that balance. But I tend to try to keep a fairly consistent routine. I mean, my routine is I just work all the time, but I do walk every day for at least half an hour. And I find if I don't get my walk in, I just don't feel as good. So getting that physical movement in is pretty much everything. Also, it's stimulates your creativity. Get out, step away from your desk, take in some new sights and smells, get the blood flowing to your head. And I just find that it's also solve a lot of certain problems I might be having, technical, creative problems. It'll just come to you once you start moving around and you take your mind off it for a second. You stop trying to solve the problem, and you just let the creative process gestate a little bit. It's all part of the creative process. That's why it's kind of hard too, especially if you do creative work, it's hard to delineate between what are working hours and what are not working hours. Because often, maybe you'll even have a dream where you solve a creative problem or you get an idea. Does that count as working hours while you're sleeping? I mean, I would almost consider it that it does, because it's such a vital part of the creative process. So everything is part of the creative process, including not creating, just being aware, being present, paying attention to awareness itself. Like, it also helps you with your focus to be able to pay attention to your attention, and it lets you expand what you notice about things. Like right now, I'm trying to focus on certain aspects, but I'm also taking in all the lines as a whole, trying to look at this entire composition and process it, both individual assets as well as the whole piece. Oh my goodness, I've been streaming for 80 minutes. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. I thought I was going to stream for 5 minutes today. Do a little prank. It's like, I don't know, once I start getting in the flow of something, I don't want to shift gears. But it is nice outside, and I do kind of want to get a little walkie in. So, yeah. I might take a break from this then. Made a decent amount of progress. But yeah, I mean, up here, obviously, there's like some UFOs going on. I'll figure that out later. But I guess I'm okay with this. The other thing, never mind. All right, yeah, I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm pretty good to be done with this. So thanks a lot for watching. Discord link stuff. You can just scroll up to the top of the chat. You'll find it. I'll also post it in the pinned comment. And there's a fire course. And also check out the animation tutorial playlist on the channel. It's got a bunch of free tutorials if your budget is $0. And I would appreciate you watching, and thank you for watching. And I guess I'm gonna go now, so thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. See you later, animator.